So first of all, thank you for inviting me here to present European funding opportunities or even global funding opportunities for AI for diagnostics. The presentation is a little bit atypical in the sense that what I'm trying to do is to lead you in the search towards an ideal funding opportunity for yourself. So I will not give a list of all different funding opportunities. I will try to provide you links that you can use yourself. And if you use the links in this presentation, you don't lose time with searching yourself. I think you can capture probably 80–90% of funding opportunities with the information in this presentation. Then I will also give a little bit of tips and hints and tricks for being successful in these type of funding opportunities. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So for me, the real magic to be successful in funding, European funding, is that you really have to select the right project within the right funding scheme. You really need to fit in. And then you have to take into account that about 2/3 of your time will be spent on the preparation of such a proposal, and then only 1/3 of your time, of your team's time, in the actual writing. Now, at this moment, we are in 2020, so Horizon 2020 is ending. The Commission is preparing for the new work programs under Horizon Europe, which will start in 2021 and will end in 2027. So the organization of this Horizon Europe is very similar to Horizon 2020. They also use 3 pillars. They reorganize the pillars a little bit, but I will here focus mainly on Pillar 2, which are, let's say, the typical, the typical large calls. And then also on Pillar 3, which are more for SMEs that want to go to the market. Now, if you go searching for calls and opportunities in funding at European level, it's important to understand the technology readiness levels. So this is a system that has been developed by NASA in the US, and the European Commission has kind of adapted that for their funding programs to be able to indicate in their call text, okay, what stage of projects that they expect in a certain call or in a certain project. And so what you can say, what I tried to do here was to give an example of biomarker assays, diagnostics. I will not go into detail here. You can look later to this slide for yourself. But what you can say is that the Horizon Europe Pillar 1 is more the earlier stage of development, so the basic principles, working out the first proof of concepts, that the more academic research, fundamental academic research, falls under Pillar 1. Then the Pillar 2, the larger calls, let's say there you have already an experimental proof of concept, and it goes up to TRL level 6, 7, and then Horizon Europe Pillar 3, that are then supporting activities in later stages. That's kind of important if you start looking for funding. Now, to come back to, I will now have a heading basically on Pillar 2, so the larger calls. This is the situation. It's kind of a complicated slide here, but I will guide you through it. So this is a situation as of today. So as of today, the Commission has kind of finalized their strategic plan. It's not completely finalized, but they know in which direction it goes. But the work programs, so the detailed work programs are not ready yet. They have not really started writing the drafts yet, but they know already kind of the titles, the topics, and even the expected outcomes are being defined at the moment. So it's impossible for me to give more details there, but this slide actually captures most of the information that you will need to find it yourself. So what I would do first is to assign or to register to newsletters. In this box, you have here the National Contact Point of Flanders, which is really improved in quality recently, so it's very nice newsletters. I also really like the Swiss office for European research. They have very good newsletters. Then there's also the Twitter on Horizon Europe. There are information days actually being organized between 22nd and 24th of September. There will be webinars on that. That will be interesting to get to know the policies behind the work packages. The work programs, and you will also get an opportunity to give input to the work programs as well. There will be sessions on digitalizations and the mission statements of the Commission. So it's kind of background information that you can get there. The policies, the policies around Horizon Europe can be found with this link. And then the work program drafts are being prepared, and the Commission expects them to finalize them by September 2020, well, not to finalize them, that they have a first full draft somewhere in September 2020. Now, these drafts are confidential, but they are being circulated by policy advisors that are working at the Ministries of Economics, Innovations and Health in the different member states. These policy advisors consult institutions like Max Planck, INSERM, large universities in your country, and so these drafts are circulating in these, in these institutes. So my advice would be, if you have someone in your network, it might be interesting to contact these persons somewhere, end of August, beginning September, and check whether you can access a certain work program draft. Anyhow, the final draft work program will be published most likely in the beginning of 2021, and you can find here also the link where you should be able to identify, to download the final work programs. So you notice that I am focusing on the drafts and on the final work program documents. So I'm not focusing on these search engines by the European Commission. Even I have difficulties finding the right calls with these search engines. So what I personally do is I always try to go to the work programs, which gives you a very nice overview and quick overview of what you need to have. Just something to know that within the health sector, the Commission has identified one clear mission area, and that is cancer. So any company, any project that is related to cancer should be aware of this, and there are a number of, the Commission defined some policies around there, the missions that they have, the objectives that they want to achieve, and you can find those ones under this link here. So if you're whatever cold topic you are interested in, whether it's cancer or not, it's always useful, I think, to check whether somehow you can link to that policy. Now, if you do get access to the work program, either the final or maybe you're lucky and you identify What I then typically do is I just scan the table of contents. I mean, that's a matter of minutes. The document in itself is very large, but it takes a couple of minutes to scan the table of content, and you will quickly see whether there is something in there that is of importance to you or that is of interest for you. And then you just go into the document, you only focus on that, and you read then the call text. Now, we have based on various sources of information, we have actually already identified some topics that might come up for Horizon Europe in 2021 and 2022. So you see, I have two slides here, and the topics that are highlighted, with the one here, that will be topics that are expected to open up in 2021. So the deadline of those calls are expected in 2021. Now, again, this information is very preliminary. Things will change, but it can give you already an idea in which direction the Commission is heading towards. So what they are interested in is artificial intelligence tools to prevent the diseases and predict risks and progressions of diseases. We have information that chronic diseases might be, the kind of diseases that they might be more interested in. Also, artificial intelligence to support clinical decisions, patients' outcomes and side effects. Digital tools for new patient stratification strategies, new tools for use and reuse of electronic health records and other health data. And they want to use it then for research purposes, but also for health prevention, diagnosis and treatment. Another topic is the use of biomarkers to optimize effectiveness of approved drugs. Companies that are interested in performing some diagnostics in Africa, sub-Saharan regions in Africa, might get an opportunity in 2021 to submit a proposal. The next one is indicators for health to disease transitions and also pre-disease biomarker signatures linked to low-grade chronic inflammation. So basically what this is preventive health. So you see that there is indeed a trend in the European Commission to also spend attention for preventive health. Then rare diseases, again, in Horizon 2020, there was a large focus on rare diseases. It's the focus on rare diseases is diminishing a little bit, but it's still there. First, they want to use all data, all knowledge to guide therapeutic development for groups of rare diseases sharing similar biological features. Then also new clinical endpoints based on biomarkers and even new therapeutic targets for rare diseases. Another one is personalized treatment for virus infections. This is expected in 2021. Then also kind of a call that will try to support novel assays, development of novel assays that can assess the safety, the potency, or the mode of action of really novel advanced therapies. This can be in cancer, but also other type of therapies. So really novel mode of actions. In this perspective, they are also interested in the next generation of immunotherapies. That will probably be a separate call. Then there's more and more interest in projects that are, providing solutions to link environmental risks with health. And that also includes 5G radiation, But they also seem to be interested in air pollution and things like that. Then there is a call on novel tools for effective use of data, any type of data in health technology assessment and regulatory agencies. And then I don't know for sure whether that's of importance to this audience, but also in mental health, or for mental health, we expect also a call that focuses on novel technologies to understand the molecular mechanisms behind mental health issues. It's not very clear to me whether it's also linked to biomarker research, but might be interesting to know. Okay, good. So the moment that you get more information, more detailed information, basically the cold text related to the topics that I've just listed, then what's important for you is to look whether your project really fits into the scope of that call, but also whether it falls really within the general interest of the funder and the specific interest of the funder for the topic. So if you read this call text, or if you read the program text, you will see that the Commission in these work programs also gives a little bit of information on the background of these calls, why they have opened up such a call. And that's what we mean here. So there you find actually some additional information on how to position your call, what the Commission is really looking at. Now, so for us, if we select a project, or if we guide a project, then we consider the following topics to be important as starting criteria. I explained already the scope, but in my opinion, you also have to have, in our sector at least, a proof of concept. You have to convince the reviewers that what you're going to do is going to work. And some people are afraid to share data, but remember that all the proposals are confidential, should be treated confidential. And so far, I've never heard any issue with confidentiality at that level. So really show what you have to be able to convince the reviewers that it's going to work. Also, your project needs to be novel and innovative. In my opinion, almost all projects in our sector are novel and innovative, but not all are realistic. So the Commission has some kind of conservativeness. So make sure that you show the reviewers that what you promise is really realistic, that it can be achieved. It's really important. Also, consider your project or position your project from a European dimension. Sometimes it's very difficult, certainly from a company point of view. So if companies are coordinator, we sometimes have difficulties, let's say, to explain to our clients that you really have to position this project from a European dimension and not from the company perspective. Very important. Then you have to have, of course, a very clear path forward. So don't, kind of mystify it, and maybe we will do this and that. No, very clear path forward. You have to know what you want to do. Do remember that you have to show a very clear valorization path, and ideally a very solid business plan as well. Also in these larger calls, even if your project is more towards the research activities. And you have to create an enormous impact for Europe. So again, there is the European view that you have to what project criteria are needed basically to be successful? In our view, the the main beneficiary, in a sense, takes the scientific lead. That does not need to. That does not mean that it's the coordinator, but it's basically that beneficiary, the partner that basically brings the product or will bring the product to market. They will, in my opinion, need to take the scientific lead of the project setup. In my opinion, what I've seen is that it's always good to present projects that hit the market relatively soon, because then you also create, of course, automatically a larger impact, but that's not absolutely necessary. But if you can present it in that direction, I would do so. And if you have the opportunity to include a consortium partner that has a proven track record to bring products or similar products to the market, it can really be a positive asset. And there are nowadays that are interested in joining these type of consortia. So that is the same in medtech. So and you just have to make sure that you have very clear agreements upfront under which conditions these kind of partners join the consortium, but there are ways to do so. Then also engage end users. Now the end users are really the end users, like patients in our case, most often, nurses even, clinicians, really engage them already during the project setup. Engaging social sciences is basically also, kind of, if your project, for instance, has an ethical concern or a socio-economic concern, also make sure that you have a small work package or small task related to that you can highlight, that you also take that into account. And that's sometimes difficult for companies. The timing of the project that you submit also needs to fit, of course, the funding timing. And that's not always that easy. Now, this slide represents kind of a worst case scenario with how to start off writing a proposal or preparing a proposal. But I see it quite a lot of times still happening. So what oftentimes happens is there is one person, one entity that takes the lead. He presents himself as the coordinator. And then they contact a number of friends, and everyone kind of writes their own aspect of a proposal. And then what basically comes out is that the commission cannot really identify, what you really want to do. So the best way, in my opinion, to tackle from the start, from day one, your project is to what I call, to apply a retrosynthetic methodology. That's kind of organic chemistry definitions. So what it means is that you really take your end goals, and your end goals are defined by the scope. And it's actually also, these end goals also needs to be linked with the needs of your end users, because that you also need to be able to show in your proposal. And then you kind of work back. And so you identify all the different steps that you need to achieve the goals of your project. And that at 3 different levels. So most people can do it or somehow do it indirectly for excellence. Excellence is actually the work programs and the planning of your project. That's still okay, but you also need to do it, very important, for the impact as well. And for dissemination, that's less important. It's more more standard, but also there sometimes you do identify gaps or weaknesses in these in a project. Now, you use this really to identify all your gaps and all your weaknesses, and then you define how you will fill in these weaknesses, how you will or how you will solve these weaknesses, how you fill in the gaps, and oftentimes you identify there a need for a novel type of consortium member. So this exercise needs to be done quite as first step really to engage well in time novel consortium members that might be needed to be successful in this endeavor. Then what you do is you make a project decision tree. For me, that's also very important in the sense that you need to know, you need to have a visual view on how the project will look like. Because you will need that to identify the green line throughout your entire project proposal. And then you also need to have a long-term project planning. So my customers, almost all of them, they say, oh yeah, we have everything already prepared, we have already a planning, we know what to do. That is most of the time correct for the first year. They have a planning, a very detailed planning even for the first year. Second year is already a little bit less, but then the years afterwards they have some kind of general ideas. Now if you apply for this type of grants, you have to make a rather detailed planning for the next 4 years or 5 years, and you have to take into account that project planning only starts 12 months from the moment that you start thinking on submitting a proposal. So oftentimes people do not have a planning, such a planning at hand, and it takes quite some effort sometimes to also take some decisions at executive level to engage, for instance, consortium members that are needed in the third year of the project. And then once you have the project decision tree and the long-term project planning, then you start writing your grant proposal, and it takes you about 30% of your time, of your team's time. Once you start writing, you have to always to remember that a proposal writing is a sales job. It's not a research proposal. It's not a scientific article. It's really a sales document, basically. And you always have to remember that the European Commission wants value for money, and they will actually pick the proposals that address their needs at the most competitive price, and their needs are their policies. And so you have to know what does the Commission wants to achieve in the end. Also remember that European Commission has a large but limited budget, so be fair with your budget. But what we oftentimes do is that, to have a good price quality, that we submit a project of, for instance, 10 million, 15 million euro. We only ask for 7 million euro of EC funding, which makes it a good value for money for the Commission. And then, like I said already, their political goals is really important. The writing itself, just a couple of tips here, a couple of hints and tricks. Make sure that you read and understand and follow the guidelines really step by step. Even if look at it almost at a daily basis. When we are writing, the guidelines are next to us, as well as the evaluation criteria. So you can find the evaluation criteria on their website. And then make sure that your project really is from sentence 1 is really logical, because your reviewers will scan basically your document. So they only have very limited time to read something like 10 or 20 proposals, each of them something like 80 to 100 pages, even more. And so what they do is they read the first page, and their decision is already made after the second page. And from that first page, the reviewer already needs to know what your project is all about. And not only your project, but also the impact. So impact is oftentimes it's forgotten how important it is. So it's not only about the project planning, what you're going to do, but also what the impact will be of your project. Use very simple language. There are a lot of non-English reviewers, so do not complicate it. Your sentences should be short, maximum one line. Then also make sure that you introduce your important messages first. So a lot of people have the tension to give first background and then the conclusion. No, do the other way around. It's very counterintuitive if you look at it from a scientific background, but this is how that works. It really works. So make sure that the important messages come first and explanations come later. Introduce schemes and tables, especially on the first page as well, and do an honest risk analysis. Reviewers will be much more pleased with your project if you have identified the risks that he has also identified. So then at least the reviewer is the mindset of the reviewer is that okay, that you mitigate the risks, that you recognize the risks, and it gives more confidence. Then now I step over to pillar 3. So pillar 3 is not the large calls anymore. These are kind of bottom-up proposals. So the Commission for Horizon Europe has kind of made a novel program, and they call it the European Innovation Council. Now, the European Innovation Council is actually a combination of what used to be the FED Open and the FED Proactive programs. And these will be put in the Pathfinder programs, so the European Innovation Council Pathfinder programs. That is basically what it means is that earlier stage projects can be submitted from a bottom-up approach within the European Innovation Council Pathfinder. When you move up your TRLs and you go closer to market, then you will be able to submit bottom-up projects within the EIC Accelerator. And the EIC Accelerator contains kind of very similar projects or programs as the SME Instrument, Phase 2, and the Fast Track to Innovation in Horizon 2020. So they kind of reorganize these two types of funding opportunities. You find more information actually here in this under this link. Now, what is this Pathfinder and Accelerator? So the Pathfinder project or program, you still need to apply as a consortium, so at least 3 partners from different countries, and it needs to be interdisciplinary. Make sure that it's interdisciplinary. It can be any visionary idea, but so if you have ideas and like, oh, this is going to change basically the world, that could be the program to look at. And the idea is that you prepare your project towards TRL 6. So it's kind of towards pre-commercial stage. So early technology to pre-commercial stage. There will be multiple deadlines per year. Project funding, it's not 100% clear to me. Some information says 3 million, other information 4 million, but like 3-4 million will be the target maximum target funding here. And I indicated here, stay within the policy scope. Why do I say this? Because the Commission has assigned kind of project managers for these two kind of funding opportunities. to make sure that the projects that are accepted, that there are in there you need to apply for, if you have a project that, or you can apply for if you have a project from pre-commercial stage and you want to bring it to market and scale up. This is kind of an interesting one because here in this type of project, this type of funding opportunities, you can also include work packages related to, for instance, marketing or business development, upscaling, large, really upscaling the production of your product, things like that. So there are not that many national or international or multinational funding opportunities in that area. So it's also multiple deadlines per year, typically 4. Here you can get a grant of up to 2.5 million euro. What is new is that you will also be able to ask for up to 15 million euro of private equity. So if your project gets selected, you will be brought in contact with VCs to kind of support financially your company. Some links here to identify, to get some more information. Now, what's the timing? So I'm almost at the end. What's also interesting for you to know is that the Innovative Medicines Initiative, you'll find the link here below, has 2 topics this year with a deadline of September 2020 on biomarker research, one in neurodegenerative diseases and one in rare disease diagnosis using newborn genetic screenings. Maybe good to know, not that many people will know this. So the IMI will actually change in Horizon Europe. It will be named Innovative Health Initiative, and the reason is that also medical technology companies will be included in this project, in this type of funding program. So it will not anymore be pharmaceutical industry only. The medtech industry will also be included in this initiative. Good to know is also that more or less outside the Horizon 2020, you also have a European program which is called Eureka. There, the most commonly known is Eurostars. Eurostars you can compare a little bit with the EIC Accelerator. So it's also small, medium enterprises, more towards the commercial side of the TRL. For R&D projects to partner with countries outside this Eureka network. Less known funding sources for you to know. Some people might be interested in clinical trials in developing countries, rare diseases, and also do not forget the Department of Defense in the US. Sometimes you can really not find nice information there. Related to COVID-19, it's kind of a hot topic at the moment. This is the website that you should follow for European opportunities. So the Commission actually decided to create a web page where all this information related to the Horizon 2020 Corona-related calls is being put all together. This is what is currently on their website. So these are the opportunities that are currently open. There's one opportunity that attracted my attention for this audience. That is joining the artificial intelligence versus COVID-19. So there if you have some type of ideas on artificial intelligence and COVID-19, that might be something to look at. Do not forget to look at at opportunities in the US as well. So this website is something to scan them. So it's the grants.gov with keywords. You can search for opportunities there, and the number of opportunities there are open for companies outside this website I sometimes use to find kind of weird funding opportunities. It's not complete here. The database here, it does not give you all opportunities, but sometimes it gives some things that you would not find in normal searches. They also have a very nice live blog. That might be that might be a blog to follow if you're really interested nowadays in this COVID-19 and want to know what's ongoing at research level at COVID-19. If you're looking for funding sources in the US, my personal preference is also to check the University of North Carolina website. They also come up with, kind of interesting funding opportunities. Here is, for instance, one that Amazon opened up a couple of, they opened up a funding opportunity for developing diagnostics. The deadline has passed actually a couple of days ago. But this type of funding opportunities you find, for instance, at this website can be very handy. So that is all that I have to say at the moment. If you have any questions, please, you can ask.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Marc, for this really interesting presentation. So at the moment, I don't see any questions. So I would like to ask you if you have questions. There's one coming now. So I will pose it to Marc. So it's from Jan Milken, Eurobiomet. So hi, Marc, regarding health tech European funding opportunities, we usually look into the health topic of the work program. Should we check other new topics specific to digital science with a chance to identify calls who could be applied to health?
Wait, can you repeat this one?
Yeah. So the whole question, or?
Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I see the text. Yes. Yeah. So it's a good question here. So what I do here related to digital health, you first have to know that within the Commission, a new team was formed where the people that were responsible for health and the people that were responsible for, let's say, all digital aspects of research literally sit in kind of the same office. So there is already a lot of crosstalk between these two topics. But indeed, what I would do in your case is I would check the work packages or the work programs for health and the work programs for digital aspects as well. So these two work programs I would go for. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I see already one person also asked if we want to share the presentations. So we will share them with the participants so you can check the links. If anyone has another question, you can type it in the Q&A and we can ask it to Marc right now. If not, we will go on to the closing off of the webinar. So we'll wait 1 second.
So maybe what I can maybe add is that it's not always easy to identify a funding opportunity. Always contact us. We know more or less what is ongoing. can search quickly, and we also to help. But ask this question in time. Sometimes people ask it too late. So if you have a novel idea, if you're investing, have reached a milestone or will reach a certain milestone in due time, it's already very useful to call us and then check, is there an opportunity for ABC projects.
Okay, great. I see another question of Marianne Morini. She asks, is the EIC accelerator open for companies that are not SMA?
No, it's really here I have to be very careful. The SME instrument was not open for non-SME companies. The EIC accelerator, I mean, the details of the, or let's put it another way, the rules for the EIC accelerator have not been really fixed yet. So it might change, but at least under 120, you needed to be a small medium enterprise to apply.